Amir had always been the kind of person who blended into the background. Not in a bad way, just normal. He went to work, came home tired, scrolled through his phone before bed, and did it all over again the next day. The Tuesday afternoon felt exactly like every other Tuesday. His eyes hurt from staring at the computer screen for too long. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, and his boss wanted changes on a project that seemed perfect just yesterday. He sat in his usual corner of the coffee shop, the one near the window but not too close to the door. He liked watching people pass by on the street while he worked. It helped him think, or maybe it just helped him avoid thinking. Either way, this was his spot, his routine, his comfortable little corner of predictability. The place was packed that day. Every table was full, and people kept walking in, looking around with that hopeful expression, then leaving when they realized there was nowhere to sit. The noise was overwhelming. Conversations overlapped. The espresso machine hissed and groaned. Someone's baby was crying near the counter, and a group of college students were laughing too loud at something on their phones. Amir tried to focus on his work. He had a deadline. He always had a deadline, but his mind kept wandering. When did life become so automatic? When did he stop actually living and start just existing? These thoughts came more often lately, usually late at night when he couldn't sleep. But now they were creeping into his afternoons, too. He was in the middle of adjusting a color gradient when something changed. The noise didn't actually stop, but somehow it felt quieter, like someone had turned down the volume on everything except one specific frequency. He looked up, not knowing why. That's when he saw her. She was moving through the crowded coffee shop with an old book tucked under her arm. There was nothing dramatic about the moment. No movie soundtrack, no slow motion. She was just a woman trying to find a place to sit. But something about the way she moved, careful but not timid, aware but not self-conscious, caught his attention completely. She had dark hair pulled back loosely, a few strands falling around her face. She wore a simple blue dress, the kind that looked comfortable and pretty at the same time. Nothing fancy, nothing trying too hard, real. That was the word that came to his mind. She looked real in a world that often felt filtered and fake. She scanned the room, and for a second her eyes met his. Just a second. But in that second, Amir felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't attraction exactly, or maybe it was, but it was more than that. It was recognition, like seeing someone you've known your whole life even though you've never met them before. She started walking toward his table. Each step felt important somehow. 3 steps. 5 steps, 7. Amir realized he had stopped breathing. Why had he stopped breathing? She was just another person looking for a seat. He had shared his table with strangers before. This was no different, except it was different, and he knew it before she even spoke. She stopped at his table, and that's when she smiled. Not a big smile, not the kind people force when they want something. Just a soft, gentle smile that reached her eyes and made them crinkle slightly at the corners. It was the kind of smile that felt like a secret being shared, like she was saying, "I know this is a strange way to meet someone, but here we are. Is this seat taken?" Her voice matched her smile, soft but clear, not timid, not aggressive, just honest. Amir opened his mouth to say no. "It's free, please sit down," but nothing came out. His brain had apparently forgotten how words worked. He was 28 years old, a functioning adult with a job and an apartment and bills he paid on time, and he couldn't remember how to form a simple sentence. She didn't seem bothered by his silence. If anything, her smile grew slightly, like she understood. Like maybe she felt it too. Yes, you can sit. The seat is not taken." The words finally tumbled out, clumsy and jumbled. He sounded like someone learning English as a second language, even though he'd spoken it his whole life. "Thank you," she said, and pulled out the chair. As she sat down, Amir realized what was happening. The coffee shop was still there. The noise was still there. The crying baby, the laughing students, the hissing espresso machine. But he couldn't hear any of it. Or rather, he could hear it, but it didn't matter. It was like everything else had become background music, and she was the only thing in focus. She placed her book on the table. It was an old paperback, the kind with yellowed pages and a creased spine that meant it had been read many times. She caught him looking at it. "It's my comfort book," she said, not apologizing, just explaining. "I read it when I need to remember that good stories exist." Amir nodded, not trusting his voice yet. He glanced at his laptop screen. The color gradient he'd been obsessing over for the past hour suddenly seemed completely unimportant. Who cared about color gradients when there was a woman sitting across from him who carried a comfort book in her bag? She pulled out a notebook and a pen. For a few minutes, they sat in silence. She wrote something, crossed it out, wrote something else. He pretended to work on his laptop, but mostly watched her from the corner of his eye. There was something mesmerizing about watching someone lost in thought, completely absorbed in whatever they were doing. Then she looked up, caught him watching, and instead of looking away embarrassed, he held her gaze. Another one of those moments where time did something weird. How long did they look at each other? 2 seconds, 5? It felt like both an instant and forever. "I'm Zara," she said, closing her notebook. "Amir," he managed, and this time his voice worked properly. "Are you working on something important, Amir?" She nodded toward his laptop. He looked at his screen. The project that had seemed so urgent an hour ago now looked exactly like what it was. A corporate presentation that no one would remember in a week. "Not really," he said, and surprised himself by closing his laptop. When had he last closed his laptop in the middle of work? He couldn't remember. "Not important at all, actually." She smiled again, and Amir felt that strange sensation in his chest intensify. It was like his heart was trying to tell him something. Shouting it, really, but in a language he hadn't quite learned yet. "Good," Zara said, settling back in her chair. "Because I've been sitting alone all day and I could really use a conversation with someone who seems kind." "I seem kind?" Amir asked, genuinely surprised. "You have kind eyes," she said simply, like she was commenting on the weather, the kind that pay attention. "That's rare." And just like that, sitting in a crowded coffee shop on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, Amir's life tilted on its axis. He didn't know it yet, not completely. But some part of him understood that everything had just changed. The woman sitting across from him with her comfort book and her soft smile had just walked into his world and made all the colors brighter. He had forgotten about his deadline, his cold coffee, his tired eyes, his automatic life. He had forgotten about everything except the present moment. The conversation started simply enough. Zara told him she was a teacher at a local elementary school, 4th grade. She taught kids who still believed in magic and asked impossible questions like, "Why is the sky blue? And where do thoughts come from?" "Today one of my students asked me if clouds have feelings," she said, her eyes lighting up with the memory. "And I didn't have the heart to tell him no, so we spent 20 minutes discussing what emotion each cloud shape might represent." Amir found himself laughing. Really laughing. Not the polite chuckle he gave his coworkers when they made unfunny jokes, but actual laughter that came from somewhere deep in his chest. "What about you?" Zara asked, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup. "What do you do when you're not sitting in coffee shops with strangers?" "I'm a graphic designer," he said, then added, "or at least I used to enjoy being a graphic designer. Lately it feels more like being a robot that makes things prettier." He hadn't meant to be so honest. He barely admitted that to himself, let alone to someone he'd met 5 minutes ago. But something about Zara made honesty feel safe. She nodded like she understood completely. "I get that. Sometimes I wonder if I'm actually teaching or just following a script someone else wrote. But then a kid will say something completely unexpected and I remember why I started." "When did you start?" Amir asked, genuinely curious. "Teaching? 5 years ago. But really I started the day my father got sick." Her voice softened, but she didn't look away. He was a teacher too. High school history. He could make any story interesting, even boring dates and old wars. "When he got diagnosed, I was working in marketing, miserable, pretending I was happy. He told me life was too short to pretend." "I'm sorry," Amir said quietly. "Thank you," Zara replied. "He died 2 years ago. Some days are harder than others. But teaching, it keeps him close, you know." The conversation could have gotten heavy then, sad and uncomfortable the way conversations about loss often do. But somehow it didn't. Zara had this way of talking about difficult things without making them feel like burdens. She spoke about her father with love and sadness mixed together, not trying to hide either feeling. "He would have liked this coffee shop," she said, looking around. "He loved places where people gathered. He used to say you could learn more about humanity in a busy coffee shop than in any history book." Time moved strangely after that. They talked about everything and nothing. Favorite books. Worst movies. The strange phenomenon of forgetting why you walked into a room. The way certain songs can transport you back to specific moments in your life. Amir told her about his obsession with finding the perfect playlist for different moods. She confessed she still watched the same cartoon from her childhood when she felt sad. They discovered they both loved rainy days. Both felt weird about eating in silence. Both had a strange talent for remembering faces but forgetting names. Wait, Zara said at one point, laughing. You're telling me you once got lost in your own neighborhood? It was one time, Amir protested, but he was laughing too. In my defense, they all looked the same. Same houses, same trees, same mailboxes. That's actually kind of amazing, she said. Like impressively bad at directions. I prefer to think of it as being easily absorbed in thought. That's a nice way of saying you weren't paying attention. Exactly. They were both laughing now, and Amir noticed several other customers glancing at them. Not annoyed, just noticing. Two people so absorbed in each other they seemed to be in their own bubble. An hour passed. Then two. Amir's phone buzzed several times with notifications he ignored. His laptop remained closed. The coffee shop got more crowded, then started to empty as the afternoon wore on. Neither of them noticed. Zara told him about her tiny apartment with the window that didn't quite close, so she could always hear the city sounds. About her collection of mismatched mugs, each one bought from a different thrift store. About how she talked to her plants and genuinely believed they grew better because of it. Amir found himself telling her things he hadn't told anyone. How he sometimes felt like he was watching his own life from the outside. How he missed creating art for himself instead of for clients. How he'd wanted to illustrate children's books but somehow ended up designing corporate presentations instead. Why don't you? Zara asked simply. Why don't I what? Illustrate children's books. Amir opened his mouth to list all the practical reasons. Bills to pay, stable income, health insurance, time constraints. But looking at Zara's open, expectant face, those reasons suddenly seemed like excuses. I don't know, he said finally. Fear, I guess. Fear of failing. Fear of trying and realizing I'm not good enough. Zara reached across the table and touched his hand. Just briefly. Just a light touch. But Amir felt it like an electric current. You know what's scarier than trying and failing? She said, not trying and spending your whole life wondering what if. Before Amir could respond, the barista called out that they'd be closing in 15 minutes. Both of them looked startled, like they'd been pulled out of a dream. Has it really been 4 hours? Zara asked, checking her phone. Her eyes widened. Oh no, I was supposed to grade papers. I was supposed to finish that presentation, Amir said, but neither of them moved to leave. They packed up slowly, neither wanting the afternoon to end. As they walked toward the door, Amir felt panic rising in his chest. What if he never saw her again? What if this was just a random afternoon that meant something to him but nothing to her? Outside, the autumn air was crisp and cool. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They stood on the sidewalk and Amir realized his heart was racing. This was, he started, then stopped, not knowing how to finish. It was, Zara agreed, understanding what he meant even though he hadn't said it. They stood there for a moment, the city moving around them. People rushing past, cars honking, the usual evening chaos. But in that moment it was just the two of them. Can I see you again? Amir asked, the words coming out before he could overthink them. Zara smiled, that same soft smile from when she'd first approached his table. I was hoping you'd ask. They exchanged phone numbers, fingers fumbling with phones, both of them grinning like teenagers. When they said goodbye, Amir watched her walk down the street until she turned the corner and disappeared. Even then, he stood there for another few minutes, just processing what had happened. His phone buzzed. A text from Zara. Thank you for the conversation. I haven't talked like that in a very long time. Amir read the message 3 times, a huge smile spreading across his face. He typed back, me neither. Same time next week? Her response came immediately. How about this weekend instead? That night, Amir lay in bed, unable to sleep, replaying every moment of the afternoon. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. The sound of her laugh. The way she looked at him like she was really seeing him. Not just the surface, but everything underneath. He hadn't forgotten the whole world when she smiled at him. The world was still there, but for the first time in years, Amir felt like he was actually present in it. Like he'd been sleepwalking through his life and had suddenly woken up, and it all started with a simple question. Is this seat taken? The next few days felt different. Everything looked the same but somehow brighter. Amir woke up earlier, went to work with actual energy, and caught himself smiling at random moments. His co-workers noticed. "Did you win the lottery or something?" his colleague asked on Thursday morning. "Something like that," Amir replied, checking his phone for the 100th time that hour. He and Zara had been texting constantly. Nothing deep or profound, just the small moments of daily life. She sent him a photo of a student's drawing of a unicorn dinosaur hybrid. He sent her a picture of a billboard with a typo so obvious it was painful. She told him about burning her breakfast. He admitted he'd worn mismatched socks to work without noticing. The messages weren't trying to impress each other. They were just real, comfortable, like they'd been doing this for years instead of days. Saturday came, and they met at a small park near the river. Amir arrived 10 minutes early, nervous in a way he hadn't been since high school. What if the magic of that afternoon had been a fluke? What if they had nothing to talk about outside the coffee shop? Then he saw her walking toward him, wearing jeans and a yellow sweater, her hair down around her shoulders, and all his worries dissolved. She waved, jogged the last few steps, and the smile on her face told him she'd been just as nervous. "Hi," she said, slightly out of breath. "Hi," he replied, and they both laughed at the awkwardness. They walked along the river path, no destination in mind. The conversation picked up exactly where it had left off, easy and flowing. They talked about their weeks, shared funny stories, pointed out interesting things around them. "Look at that dog," Zara said, pointing at a tiny puppy struggling to walk on a leash. "It's like watching a potato with legs." Amir burst out laughing. "That's the most accurate description I've ever heard." They watched the sunset from a bench overlooking the water. Zara told him more about her father, how he used to take her to this same park when she was young, how they'd feed the ducks and make up stories about the people passing by. "That couple over there," she said, nodding toward an elderly pair walking slowly hand in hand. "My father would have said they were time travelers who accidentally got stuck in this era and are trying to find their way back to the 1950s. "And that jogger?" Amir asked, getting into the game. Obviously training to run away from his responsibilities, literally. They both laughed, and Amir realized his cheeks hurt from smiling so much. As the sky darkened, they walked to a nearby bookstore, one of those old independent shops that smelled like paper and possibility. Zara's eyes lit up the moment they stepped inside. "This is my happy place," she said, running her fingers along the spines of books. "I could spend hours here." They wandered through the aisles, pulling out random books, reading ridiculous passages to each other, arguing playfully about which genres were superior. Zara loved mystery novels. Amir preferred science fiction. They both agreed that romance novels got unfairly judged. In the children's section, Zara picked up a beautifully illustrated picture book. "You could do this," she said, showing him the artwork. "Actually, your style would be even better." "You've never seen my artwork," Amir pointed out. "Show me." So he did. He pulled up his portfolio on his phone, the personal work he kept separate from his corporate projects. Sketches and paintings and digital art he created late at night when he couldn't sleep. Zara scrolled through in silence, her expression serious and focused. Amir felt more nervous watching her look at his art than he'd felt presenting to any client. "Amir," she said finally, looking up at him, "these are incredible, like genuinely incredible. Why are you hiding these?" "I'm not hiding them. They're personal." "You're sharing them with me," she said softly. "That's different." "Why?" He didn't have an answer for that. Or maybe he did, but he wasn't ready to say it out loud yet. "Because you matter. Because I want you to see the real me. Because something about you makes me brave." Instead, he said, "Because you asked." She held his gaze for a moment, and Amir saw something shift in her eyes. Understanding, maybe? Or recognition. Like she heard what he didn't say. At the checkout counter, while Zara was looking at bookmarks, Amir noticed a book behind the counter. A first edition of The Secret Garden, Zara's favorite book. She'd mentioned it during one of their late-night texting conversations. The price tag made him wince, but he didn't hesitate. "I'll take that too," he told the clerk quietly, nodding toward the book. When they left the store, he handed her the bag. "I already bought my book," she said. Confused. "Open it." She did, and her expression went through several stages. Confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like she might cry. "Amir, this is too much. This is a first edition. You said it was your favorite, but we just met. You can't. Do you like it? He asked simply. I love it. But then that's all that matters. Zara looked at the book, then at him, then back at the book. Her eyes were shining. No one's ever done something like this for me before. Then people have been doing it wrong, Amir said, and he meant it. She stepped closer and hugged him. It was the first time they'd really touched beyond accidental hand brushes and brief contact. Amir felt her warmth, smelled her shampoo, coconut. He filed away in his memory, felt her heartbeat against his chest. When she pulled back, they stood there in the streetlight, neither quite willing to let go yet. That night, walking home alone, Amir felt something he'd almost forgotten existed. Pure, uncomplicated happiness. No anxiety about the future, no regrets about the past, just contentment with the present moment. His phone buzzed. Zara, I'm reading it right now. Already crying at the dedication page. Thank you for seeing me. Amir read that message over and over. Thank you for seeing me. That's exactly what it felt like. Like they saw each other, really saw each other, in a way most people never did. Behind the social masks, beyond the casual conversations, past the carefully curated versions of themselves they showed the world. But then came Monday morning, and a casual conversation that would change everything. They were having coffee again, back at the original coffee shop, sitting at their same table. Zara seemed distracted, stirring her coffee absently. Everything okay? Amir asked. She looked up, forced a smile. Yeah, there's something I need to tell you. Amir's stomach dropped. Those words never led anywhere good. I got offered a position, she said. A really good position. Teaching at a private school in another city. It's a huge opportunity. Better pay, better resources, the kind of place every teacher dreams about working. That's amazing, Amir said, and meant it, even though his heart was sinking. When would you start? They need an answer by next month. If I accept, I'd move at the end of this semester. How far is the city? 4 hours by car, 4 hours. Not impossibly far, but far enough. Far enough that casual coffee dates wouldn't work. Far enough that everything would have to change. You should take it, Amir said, trying to sound supportive and not heartbroken. It sounds perfect for you. Maybe, Zara said quietly. I don't know anymore. What do you mean? She looked at him, and in her eyes Amir saw his own confusion reflected back. They'd known each other for less than 3 weeks. It was too soon to be this important to each other. Too soon to factor each other into life-changing decisions. Too soon for everything he was feeling, but time didn't seem to matter with them. 3 weeks felt like 3 months, like 3 years, like forever. I mean, Zara said slowly, 2 months ago this would have been an easy decision. Dream job in a new city? Obviously yes. But now what? Now there's you. Those 3 words hung in the air between them. Amir felt his heart racing. They'd been dancing around this, both of them knowing something big was happening, but neither wanting to name it yet. Zara, he started, but didn't know how to finish. I know it's fast, she said quickly. I know we barely know each other. I know it's crazy to even consider turning down this opportunity because of someone I met in a coffee shop 3 weeks ago. Is that what you're considering? I don't know, maybe, probably. Is that insane? Amir wanted to tell her yes, take the job. Don't give up your dreams for someone you just met. That's what the rational part of his brain was screaming. But his heart was saying something completely different. I can't tell you what to do, he said finally. This has to be your decision. But what do you want? She asked, and her voice was smaller now, vulnerable. What did he want? He wanted her to stay. He wanted more afternoons in coffee shops, more walks by the river, more bookstore adventures. He wanted to see where this could go without distance and logistics getting in the way. But he also wanted her to be happy, to chase her dreams, to not resent him in 6 months or a year for being the reason she stayed. I want you to do what's best for you, he said, even though it physically hurt to say it. Zara nodded slowly, looking down at her coffee. I have until next month to decide. Then we have time, Amir said, reaching across the table to take her hand. She laced her fingers through his, and they sat like that for a long time, both thinking about what came next, both scared of saying the wrong thing, both feeling more for each other than either was quite ready to admit. The thing about falling in love, Amir was learning, is that it doesn't wait for convenient timing. It doesn't care about logic or reason or practical concerns. It just happens whether you're ready or not, and he was falling. Fast and hard and completely. The question was, would they be brave enough to catch each other? The next few weeks were strange. Good strange, but strange. Amir and Zara spent every possible moment together, as if they were trying to store up memories in case the future pulled them apart. But hanging over everything was the unspoken deadline, the decision that needed to be made. Amir tried not to think about it. He focused on the present, on the way Zara laughed at his terrible jokes, on how she always ordered her coffee too hot and had to wait forever before drinking it, on the little things that made her unique and wonderful and his. Except she wasn't his. Not really. They hadn't defined what they were, hadn't used any labels, hadn't made any promises. They were just two people spending time together, except it felt like so much more than that. His friends noticed the change in him. They'd been trying to get him to go out for months, and suddenly he was always busy. Always had plans. Always checking his phone with that specific smile that meant someone special was texting. "So when do we meet her?" his best friend asked one Friday night. Amir had actually agreed to hang out, mainly because Zara had parent-teacher conferences and would be busy all evening. "Meet who?" Amir asked, playing dumb. "The woman who's turned you into someone who smiles at his phone constantly." "Come on, man. You're not subtle." Amir laughed. "Maybe soon. It's still new. New but serious from the look of things." "Maybe," Amir admitted. "Yeah, probably. So what's the problem? Why do you look worried?" Amir sighed and told him about the job offer, about the decision Zara had to make, about how he felt like he was falling for someone who might leave. "Have you told her how you feel?" his friend asked. "Not exactly. What does that mean?" "It means I don't want to pressure her. This is her career, her future. I can't ask her to give that up for someone she's known for a month." "But what if she wants to? What if she's waiting for you to give her a reason to stay? Or what if I give her a reason to stay, and then she resents me for it later?" His friend shook his head. "You're overthinking this. Love isn't a logic puzzle, Amir. Sometimes you just have to be honest about what you feel and deal with the consequences." Love. That word again. Was it love? Could it be love this fast? But Amir knew the answer. He'd known for a while now. He loved the way she listened, really listened when he talked. He loved how passionate she got about her students, how she saw teaching as more than a job. He loved her random texts at weird hours, sharing thoughts that couldn't wait until morning. He loved that she carried a comfort book everywhere, that she believed in talking to plants, that she wasn't afraid to cry when something moved her. He loved her. It was that simple and that complicated. The following Saturday, Amir took Zara to his favorite spot in the entire city. A hill overlooking everything where you could see the whole skyline spread out like a painting. He'd been going there since college, whenever he needed to think or clear his head. They sat on the grass as the sun began to set, not touching but close enough that he could feel her warmth. The city below was starting to light up, thousands of tiny windows glowing like stars brought down to earth. "It's beautiful," Zara said softly. "I used to come here when I needed to make big decisions," Amir said. Something about seeing everything laid out like this made problems feel smaller, more manageable. "And does it work?" "Usually. But lately I can't seem to get the clarity I used to find here." Zara turned to look at him. "What are you trying to get clarity about?" This was it, the moment to be honest or stay safe. Amir took a breath. "You," he said. "Us, whatever this is. What do you think this is?" Her voice was careful, neutral, giving nothing away. "I think," Amir said slowly, "that I've never felt this way about someone so fast. I think that scares me. I think you scare me. Not in a bad way. In a this could actually be something real way." Zara was quiet for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I need to tell you something about the job." Amir's heart sank. She was taking it. Of course she was taking it. It was the smart choice, the logical choice. "The thing is," Zara continued, "I've been trying to make this decision like it's a math problem. Pros and cons. Career advancement versus staying in a familiar place. Better opportunities versus what I have here." "And what do you have here?" Amir asked, not sure he wanted to hear the answer. She turned to face him fully, her eyes bright in the fading light. "You know that afternoon in the coffee shop? I lied about something." "What?" "I said I asked if I could sit at your table because it was the only seat available." That wasn't true. There were other seats. I chose your table specifically. Amir's breath caught. Why? Because when I walked into that coffee shop, stressed and tired and feeling overwhelmed by everything in my life, I saw you sitting there. And I don't know how to explain this without sounding crazy, but something in my chest just knew. Like my heart recognized you before my brain caught up. That doesn't sound crazy, Amir said quietly. I felt the exact same thing. So here's what I need to tell you about the job, Zara said. I'm terrified to turn it down. It's everything I've worked toward. But I'm more terrified of leaving and spending the rest of my life wondering what could have happened if I'd stayed, if I'd chosen you. Zara, I'm not finished, she said. And there were tears in her eyes now. After my father died, I shut down. I went through the motions of living, but I wasn't really alive. Then you happened, and for the first time in 2 years, I feel awake again. I feel things again. You make me want to choose joy over safety. Amir felt his own eyes burning. I don't want to be the reason you give up your dreams. But what if you're not? What if you're the reason I finally understand what my dreams actually are? They sat there as the sun finished setting, the city lights growing brighter around them. Amir reached for her hand and she let him take it. I'm falling in love with you, he said, finally letting himself say it out loud. I know it's fast. I know it's probably too soon to say that. But it's true, and I want you to make whatever decision is best for you. But I needed you to know. I needed you to know that you're not alone in feeling this. Zara squeezed his hand, tears running down her cheeks now. I'm falling in love with you too. And it terrifies me. What if we move too fast and mess this up? What if the intensity burns out? What if it doesn't? Amir interrupted. What if this is exactly what it feels like? What if we're not moving too fast, we just found each other at exactly the right time? Is that what you believe? I don't know what I believe about anything anymore, Amir admitted. Except this. Except you. That's the one thing I'm certain about. Zara was quiet for a long moment and Amir's heart raced. Finally she spoke. I need to be honest with you about something else. I've been negotiating with the school, the one offering me the job. What do you mean? I told them I couldn't move there full-time, but I could do a part-time consulting role. Come in twice a month, work remotely the rest of the time. They weren't thrilled, but they agreed to think about it. When did you do this? Last week. Before I knew how you felt. Before this conversation. Because even before we said any of this out loud, I knew I couldn't leave. Not really. Not entirely. Amir pulled her closer and she let her head rest on his shoulder. They sat like that, overlooking the city, both of them feeling the weight and the lightness of what they'd just admitted. So what happens now? Amir asked. I don't know, Zara said. I've never done this before. Chosen something because it made